This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Chapter 2 of our series, Understanding Culture, How Societies Shape Us. In this episode, titled Cultural Dimensions, Mapping Human Differences, we'll explore the fascinating concept of cultural dimensions and why they matter in our interconnected world. So, grab your headphones and let's dive in! A Dutch researcher once ranked countries by how comfortable they are with inequality, and Malaysia landed near the very top, while Austria sat near the bottom. In today's episode, we'll step into everyday moments where those hidden rankings quietly shape who speaks, who waits, and who decides. Now zoom out from that single ranking and look at an ordinary workday that stretches across borders. A manager in New York expects a junior analyst from Guatemala to push back in meetings. The analyst, in turn, waits for clear instructions and reads the manager's open door policy as lip service. Neither person is wrong. They're following different invisible rule books. Cultural dimension research doesn't just label those differences, it measures them. It tells us, for instance, how likely people are to question a boss, prioritize the group over themselves, or focus on long-term stability versus quick wins. These numbers won't predict what any one individual will do at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, but they can forecast the default settings of a team, a negotiation, or a marketing campaign. And when those defaults clash, misunderstandings aren't random, they're patterned, and crucially, they're manageable. Think of these dimensions as maps you didn't know you were using. Companies already lean on them to choose leadership styles, design consumer experiences, and even time major decisions. McKinsey found that cross-border mergers aligning on these cultural maps earn significantly higher returns than those that didn't. Economists link some dimensions to concrete outcomes, like how much a country saves or spends. And researchers keep stress testing the models with fresh data. They're not crystal balls, but they're closer to weather forecasts than horoscopes. Imperfect, yet consistently useful when stakes are high. Think of what happens the first week a global project kicks off. The German engineer sends a 12-page risk analysis. The US product lead replies with a 3-slide big picture. The Japanese partner suggests another round of internal alignment before committing. Nobody's being difficult. They're following different cultural dimensions around certainty, communication, and harmony. Hofstede's framework highlights 6 of these recurring patterns. We've already brushed past 2 of them. Let's explore others that quietly script daily behavior. Uncertainty avoidance is about how much structure people want when facing the unknown. In high-scoring places, detailed contracts, step-by-step procedures, and formal titles reduce anxiety. In low-scoring contexts, experimentation feels natural and rules are treated more as guidelines. Put those 2 in one team, and you'll see one side asking for more process, while the other keeps saying, let's just try it and see. Masculinity versus femininity sounds outdated, but in this model, it's about which social goals are celebrated. Masculine cultures emphasize competition, visible success, and clear winners. Feminine ones lean toward quality of life, consensus, and modesty. That shapes everything from how aggressively people negotiate salary to whether working late is praised or questioned. Then there's indulgence versus restraint, a dimension newer to many managers. High-indulgence societies are more comfortable with leisure, expressiveness, and spending on enjoyment. Restrained ones stress duty, self-control, and social norms. Marketers see this in how people respond to treat yourself campaigns versus be responsible messaging. These dimensions don't operate in isolation, they combine. Picture a multinational sales meeting. A high-indulgence competitive culture may push hard for bold quarterly targets, while a restrained, harmony-focused team worries about overpromising and straining relationships. If you know the profiles in the room, you can predict those tensions before anyone speaks, and design ground rules that give each side space. Crucially, scores live at the national level, but variation inside a country can be huge. Younger professionals, urban hubs, or specific industries often form microcultures that tilt away from the national average. Successful global organizations learn to read both layers at once, the broad national tendencies and the particular subcultures that actually do the work. A practical way to feel these dimensions at work is to follow a single decision as it travels across borders. Picture a global brand debating whether to launch a risky, eco-friendly product. In one office, teams push for rapid rollout, arguing that whoever moves first will own the story. In another, managers slow the pace, checking how the change will affect suppliers, local regulators, and long-term trust. Neither side is simply cautious or bold. Each is tuning different cultural priorities: security, reputation, enjoyment, duty, without naming them. The tension only spikes when people assume their own setting is normal and others are being political or lazy. Companies that make those differences explicit often redesign the process. They might stage decisions, giving one group early input on market buzz and another formal veto on risk thresholds. Over time, that turns culture from a source of mystery into something you can deliberately choreograph. When cities, industries, or online communities drift away from national norms, the old maps blur. Culture starts to look less like fixed borders and more like shifting weather fronts. A startup hub in a restrained country may feel surprisingly playful, while a public agency in a relaxed place may run on tight formality. As hybrid work spreads, people now move daily between these microclimates, so misalignment shows up in small frictions. Slack tone, meeting pace, who gets looped in, long before big conflicts erupt. Your challenge this week? Pick one recurring interaction with someone from a different background: your manager in another country, a vendor abroad, a distributed teammate. For the next 5 instances, label each moment of friction with a cultural hypothesis, not a judgment. Then ask one concrete, culture-aware question. For example, would more detail up front help here, or less? And see how the dynamic shifts. As you test those hypotheses, notice where your own habits sit on the dial. Culture isn't a script you're stuck reading. It's more like a recipe you can tweak. Less hierarchy here, more spontaneity there. The more precisely you name the flavors in play, the easier it becomes to adjust them, co-create norms, and design interactions that actually fit the people in the room. Start with this tiny habit. When you open an email or chat from someone in another country, quietly guess whether they come from a more individualist or collectivist culture, and then add just one sentence that either highlights team benefits, this will help the whole group, or personal impact, this will help you, to match your guess. When you finish any meeting today, take 10 seconds to rate it in your head on one Hofstede dimension, like high versus low power distance, and say to yourself one tiny tweak you'd make next time. For example, I'll invite one junior person to speak first. Over the next week, whenever you notice a cultural misunderstanding moment, mentally label which dimension it might belong to: uncertainty avoidance, masculinity, femininity, etc., instead of just calling it weird. This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!